This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Sean, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thank you very much, Frank. Glad to be with you.
Great, exciting time of the year. We're heading towards, I know what's going to be bigger than ever FinTech Summit that will be coming up in a few weeks. And then, obviously, one of the hot things that has been a lot of buzz about, a lot of talk about the Advance Awards. We'll go into that a little bit in a second. But I guess before we do, I'm going to take advantage. You know, everyone knows you're the chair of the FinTech Society, but also that you've been pretty active, I would say a founding member of even that FinTech Atlanta task force. But when you're outside of that particular vertical and you're looking in, you know, people are questioning and wondering just what's going on. So let's start off with, you know, people obviously associate the ATL FinTech with payments, you know, the whole transaction alley. But doesn't your agenda extend beyond payments, and maybe go into a little bit about that, security, lending, mobile?
Absolutely. It certainly does. While Atlanta is and well known for being transaction alley, you have companies here all across the fintech spectrum: capital markets, banking technology, mobile security. You have the Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, which owns the New York Stock Exchange, is headquartered here in the state of Georgia. 50% of the companies listed on the NASDAQ Financial Tech Index have a major presence in the city of Atlanta. So when we look at doing the Tag FinTech Georgia 2017 event, we definitely don't exclusively look for payments. We also look at things across the alternative financing, when you talk about lending and credit, security and fraud around the movement of money throughout the United States, real-time money movement between banks, which will be an entirely new segment driver for retail. So it goes far beyond just payments.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, you know, you obviously, from a cursory overview, but there's so much going on. Get a little bit more granular, if you will. Remind our listeners, because just really it's only been a few years since the term FinTech has gotten to be so synonymous with financial technology, financial transactions that are going on, but the market seems to have exploded. So I'm in the business community in the ATL. Give us some insight as to what that means to the overall business community, and how is it playing as far as prominence on the global stage is concerned?
Certainly. Well, you know, the fact that I think is the most telling about the domination that Atlanta's put forth in the fintech arena is the fact that 70% of all banking, payment, debit, credit, and prepaid card transactions processed globally are processed through a company that is headquartered in the state of Georgia. You have dozens of large major fintech companies headquartered here. Many of the ones that are not headquartered here have significant presence, almost like second headquarters located here when you talk about the core processors. So it's extraordinarily important to the state of Georgia. I think there's 25,000 employees from fintech companies that are employed in the state of Georgia, and there's probably another 25,000 globally that are employed by those companies headquartered in Georgia.
Well, when we talk about a cluster, there, you know, in terms of economic development impact and the attraction of millenniums, and I'm starting to call them dream catchers as far as innovation providers, and so much is going on in the fields of so many other verticals about innovation centers and that kind of thing, trying to create a cluster, trying to create a kind of rainforest feeling as it relates from startup all the way through to global major leader. And I think in the fintech space, we've, as you point out, 70%, that's a pretty good beginning to forming a cluster of anything when you've got that much control over that much part of the market. But that said, so many other leaders, innovative leaders, have been either started here or have been attracted to relocating here, to the extent that it's such a dominant player that it plays out far beyond the vertical and goes into just where Georgia leads as far as technology overall is concerned. I'm amazed. I was sitting here thinking a couple of minutes ago before our discussion, this can't be. Is this the 6th symposium that you guys have had? I remember the first one, and it only seemed like a year ago or two. I can't believe it's already the 6th. And maybe give us a little bit of background about the growth over the years.
Certainly, and I'm right there with you, Frank. It's hard for me to imagine that this will be the sixth one, and it's the seventh. 7 years ago, actually, the first time we did one. We ended up skipping a year based on moving the calendar for the event. But the first event was, I want to say, 95 folks at the bottom of 103 West there in Buckhead, and it has grown to the point where last year we had well over 500 attendees, folks coming in from all over the country for the event. We have a lot of the major foreign governments looking to participate in the TAG FinTech Georgia events because they recognize that this is a place where we have to have exposure, and it's something where, as an Atlanta native, I'm extraordinarily proud of my city, and I want to continue to see us come together and recognize that we have this very important piece of the ecosystem for financial technology right here at our fingertips, and that we can really make a difference by continuing to lean into events like this. So, I would love to see us break last year's attendance record. I think we definitely can. I have more and more people talk to me about the event each and every year, so I feel the momentum continuing to pick up.
Well, one of the things that is a constant competitive situation, especially in the face of so many different verticals, technology verticals that are growing so rapidly, and so much information and need for collaboration, is not only is there a competition in the marketplace, I think sometimes there's a competition in terms of best programs, best events. I can't go to everything. I've got to figure out which one should I go to. And I think most of our listeners would agree with me when they say that obviously something like the FinTech event has such value in the area of networking and building relationships, or even continuing to build on the relationships you already have. But I think another thing that you guys have really been a standout about is a lot of events can bring in some pretty good speakers. But the wealth of C-level speakers that you guys have had over the years, and I think some of the ones that you're already planning, and then throw in a little thing like the Lifetime Achievement Award, I think that's pretty important, that not only do you attend from the richness of the networking and the collaboration, but the sheer content. I guess where I'm headed, Sean, is go into a little bit about maybe some of the people who have played a role as far as the past events are concerned, but equally as important, maybe go into a little bit about T. Stephen Johnson and why he's important to the ATL FinTech community.
Definitely. And unfortunately, Stephen passed away earlier this year, so the award is going to be granted to him posthumously. But Stephen was somebody that we had known for years at TTV as an innovator in the financial tech space. And while we've celebrated financial tech executives who definitely were innovators, from folks like Pete Kite to extraordinarily executives like Phil Tomlinson and Jimmy Blanchard and Paul Garcia and Pam Joseph, all the way back to Brooke Smith last year with Incom, Steve Johnson was one of the first folks to do an internet-only bank with NetBank. Something that a lot of folks don't necessarily recognize as it's normal now, but back in 98, 99, there wasn't really online banking. He did one of the very first remote deposit capture products, which was when you used to be able to go into a UPS store and have your check deposited directly into your bank account based on the scanners there, the remote deposit capture. So having folks like Steve Johnson celebrated as innovators in and around this space who may not be brand names are the kind of stuff that we want to do with the FinTech Symposium to push that agenda, that it's important at all levels that we continue to focus on growing this pearl here in Atlanta, which is the FinTech community.
Well, I think obviously everything's all about innovation, and I think we sometimes forget it's a narrative that continues. It doesn't ever stop, and it doesn't. I don't think there's. I think a sense of identity and sense of place is so critical to the next step, the next future, the next new idea or innovation that's going to be coming up. And when you can reach back into the wealth of the kind of people that are part of the infrastructure that have made what the financial community is in Atlanta, it isn't an overnight success. It's something that's built out literally over many decades, not just even a few decades. And obviously leaders like Johnson and other pioneers have built not only local reputations, but literally international and industry reputations. When you've got that kind of gravitas and you're identifying the award with that kind of recognition, competition has got to be really a challenge when you're awarding the competition out. I mean, talk a little bit about the finals that are taking place with the symposium, and maybe go into a little bit about how competitive the environment is.
Sure, certainly. So this year we have two. So we're doing our third consecutive year for the Innovation Award, and 4 years ago, before we started this, we recognized that it's fine and dandy to host events and bring people together and provide content. But if we really wanted to put our money where our mouth is, we needed to come up with a catalyst to drive innovation. And so we have a $50,000 cash award to the most innovative FinTech startup. We have 8 applicants who are going through the process right now. They'll be whittled down to probably 3 or 4 who will get to present at the symposium, and the winner will be awarded the $50,000 at the symposium. But we recognize also innovation doesn't end with the startups, so we added a program this year called FinTech Advance, which is an opportunity for us to celebrate the innovation and the effective deployment of innovation in the FinTech community for some of the bigger companies. And so the folks who have been awarded the Advance Awards for this year will be recognized at the symposium as well and will be featured prominently throughout the day. Okay,
so we've talked a lot around the actual event. Maybe give us some insight as to, number one, if I'm interested in getting more information. Obviously, still time to participate. I'm guessing it's in terms of sponsorships and tables, but certainly to be able to make sure that you've got yourself a guaranteed seat up in the front row, if you will. Maybe go into a little bit about the particulars about the event that's coming up.
Sure, certainly. It's on February 9th. It's at the Galleria. We'll get started early in the morning around 8:30. The program will run throughout the day, including lunch, and end with the cocktail reception at the end of the afternoon. You can register for it on tagonline.org under the events tag, and it's entitled Tag FinTech Georgia 2017. We definitely still are accepting sponsorships, and this is a great opportunity for not only companies that are in the FinTech space, but also companies who may service the FinTech industry to get their name out there and become recognized.
Well, and I would add just one more, and that is if you have any curiosity or interest and aren't already in the space and want to learn about it and make friends and relationships really quickly, there's only one place and one day to do it on, and that's the actual event. I mean, it is one of the more productive, as you mentioned, content has been king, no doubt about it, a lot of sharing and collaboration, but the quality of the people and putting it all in one place at one time, when it works really well. And in this particular case, hats off to you and to the board and to the guys that have been working with you on this program now, as you mentioned, 7 years, but 6 programs. And really hats off, Sean, for all the things you do for the technology community and specifically the great pioneering work in cultivating the whole FinTech space as far as the city of Atlanta. Thank you so much for taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule. Much success on your event, but thank you for joining us today on Tech Talk.
Well, Frank, thank you, and I can't take all the credit. I work with great people, and the folks who assist me on that board really deserve more credit than I do, but I appreciate you having me. Thank you.